And I will record.
All right. Welcome to anyone who is on Facebook. Thank you for joining us today. Yes, we are live.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Smart with Your Money Live. Spring into action and clean your financial house. I'm Chase Peckham. I am the Director of Community Outreach and Education at the San Diego Financial Literacy Center, the education arm of DebtWave Credit Counseling. And as always, I am joined by my cohort, Felipe Arevalo, who is the coordinator here at the San Diego Financial Literacy Center. And Phil, it's spring. I mean, it's been raining a lot here in Southern California, which we're not used to, but it's sunny today, and you can see the weeds and the plants, and it's green.
And the
So spring is
allergies.
here.
It is, and a happy St. Patrick's Day to
And
anyone
happy
who's
St.
joining
Patrick's
us.
Day.
This is the closest thing to green I could find. But it's spring is here for all intents and purposes. I know some parts of the country right now are dealing with big storms and everything, and then there's still parts with snow. But it's temperature's starting, time changed, and we're all here with allergies.
Yeah, right. Allergies are beginning.
Yeah, so today, spring into action. Let's get to some spring cleaning, and we'll start off with take a quick peek at your budget. If you haven't in a while, spring could be a good reminder to take the time and look at your budget. Take the time to review it, have it be, we recommend people review it all the time, but at least if you haven't in a while, or maybe you're putting together a budget for the first time, take a look at it.
We mention budgets all the time in Smart with Your Money Live, and there's a reason for that. I mean, it's really the backbone of everything that we do financially. If you have at least some kind of a budget, you'll tend to be in pretty good shape. But we're going to show some things here that will help with this budget.
Yeah, and the gift says it's budget season, but it's always budget season. That's here at the SDFLC, as it should be for everyone else. But maybe also spring, it is time to take a moment and revisit your financial goals. Have they changed? How are you doing on your New Year's resolutions, whether they be financial or otherwise? Maybe it's a time to take a step back and say, whoa, we're in March already. Not just March, we're like halfway through March. We're less than a month from tax day. And revisit some of your financial goals. Are you taking the steps required to get to them? What can you change to get there faster?
Yeah, maybe it's you're saving for a house. Maybe you're looking, you're getting more serious about it and thinking about looking. And in this market, you have to be on top of it. Maybe there's, gosh, most of us have not traveled at all in the last year. It seems that a lot of us are a lot of people are getting vaccinated now. It seems that we're on that road to getting back to somewhat normal and being able to get around and maybe even, leave our houses and go sit on a beach somewhere or go visit family. So maybe that's a goal for 2021 that you want to do towards the summer or the fall.
Yeah, paying off debt. I saw a report that last year was one of the best years by Americans of paying back debt,
more than
credit card debt. And it's something where it's like, if you've done a good job of paying down debt in 2020, as things open up, just be cautious of your budget, be cautious of your finances, and don't reverse the progress that you've made.
Yeah, we all can.
So far.
we all can get pretty excited about things, and then all of a sudden we bust our budget again.
Right. So revisit those financial goals. And if you have financial goals, if you have joint finances with someone, a significant other or whatever, go on a date, but go on a budget date. Sit down, review your budget, review your goals, and make sure that they're aligned and that you're both working towards a common goal and both working on things together, because it's easier to accomplish goals and stay on budget together than it is to if one person's trying real hard at saving and the other person's just going on fun Amazon shopping sprees. They have to kind of be going in the same direction.
You know, it's interesting, Phil, and that this is a great idea because it's been worldwide. The golf industry has like gone crazy, and it was hurting for a long time. But with the pandemic, golf was like one of the only things that people could actually get outside and do, and so a lot of people took it up. But golf can be expensive and be a budget buster. So that's something, you know, even though you're doing it, you got to try to figure out that if you're playing golf and you're adding that expense, what expenses are you not going to use? But it's interesting.
Yeah, I know I have a couple friends on my Facebook who, went out and tried golf for the first time in the pandemic. They're more basketball players or soccer players or something, but they needed to get out, and golf was something they can go play and take up. And I think they're hooked.
I mean, new
now.
hobbies are always a great thing. Just make sure that you account for them, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. This is a big one. And years back, it was, oh, get rid of your cable. Sign up for one of these subscriptions.
Right.
It started with Netflix for the most part for everyone, Amazon Prime, things like that. And it was, you can save so much money by doing these streaming things instead. But now there are so many streaming services, and if you want to watch certain things, you can't watch them on the streaming service you have. So then you have two options: get another streaming service or not to watch it. But go through and check your subscriptions. Time to sit down and clean out what do you pay for every month that maybe you don't use at all. Maybe you still use your Netflix a lot, or maybe I heard on the news this week they're starting to crack down on password sharing. So maybe you have Netflix but don't pay for Netflix. It may be time soon, depending on what they do with it, where you may have to start paying for it. But check what other subscriptions you can maybe do without, or just put on hold temporarily.
We did the same thing. Sorry, Apple TV and Hulu.
Oh man, those are the ones that lost out in your household.
They lost out, but the great thing about the streaming, at least for now, is that there's no contract. So if you time it right, you can get rid of one and then grab another, and kind of depending on when your shows air, right? But so
if you're binge watching a show on one of them, and it's going to take you a few months to get through it, maybe you don't need you can cancel one or just put it on hold and then activate it down the line when you're ready to look for new content, whether it be on, Apple TV or, Spotify. If you have like 4 different music streaming services, do you really need all 4 of them? Maybe you could do without one.
Right.
So just time to revisit those. Take the
because
time
they add up. They really do.
And sometimes they add up where you're paying more than you used to back when you had cable.
Right.
But now we've gotten so used to it, and it's so on demand. It's so easy that I couldn't see myself personally switching back to cable because it's just all there at the touch of a button with the streaming. So check your subscriptions. This includes the gym. For those of you who may be signed up for the gym and haven't visited it in a while, either start going or maybe cancel it. Why
magazine subscriptions,
subscriptions,
and not only that, but like if you are subscribed to a bunch of different websites because you like to read the Washington Post or you like to read Sports Center or a sports website,
Illustrated or whatever.
Right. There's a lot of those things that we bought at one time because we wanted to read an article, and we're still paying $4.99 a month for it. So those are the kinds of things you want to go back and take a look.
Yeah. And you cancel a bunch of them or change a bunch of them, it can have a big impact on a month-to-month basis and then compounded yearly.
Sure can.
All right. So spring cleaning couldn't be spring cleaning without actually going through your stuff and removing things and getting rid of them. And if you can sell them, if you have a lot of old clothes that maybe you don't use, or clothes you bought for one occasion and then you've never wore it again. I hear bridesmaids dresses happen to pile up sometimes for people. maybe it's time to move them on, and you know declutter, physically declutter your living environment, and maybe even make some money and add some money to your budget, or use it to pay off some of the debt that maybe resulted from purchasing those items initially.
Absolutely. Check your garage, go through all the old stuff you have. Maybe you have Little League stuff that your kids have
Yeah.
used and your kids are out of Little League, and you've got old gloves, and you can donate those to, kids in need or something like that. Or if they're newer and you can sell it and make a little side hustle, that's a great idea. There's so many things that pile up on us. I know that my wife is so type A that she doesn't let that happen, and she sells stuff on a constant basis. I have to constantly check my closet to make sure I still
What's
have
still there?
my favorite shirts in there, because, she might just say, nope, no more.
I haven't seen you
So,
wear this in a couple months. You must
oh
not
yeah,
like it anymore.
absolutely. And yeah, she'll sit there and she'll pull everything off the garage and say, so what is this? What is this? Do we need this still? So yeah, and it's a great idea because clutter can add up.
Yeah, and it adds up slowly. I was mentioning to Chase earlier, it's a little bit different, but I went through our pantry and just canned goods and just decluttered that. And they weren't in my way. The door's closed all day, but just kind of opening it up now and knowing that, oh wow, this is so organized and so neat. Even
Yeah.
for a person who organization isn't their strong suit, like myself, it's really nice to have something nice and organized and neat. Uh,
Hopefully it stays that
in my
way.
desk, trust me, I have to work hard for my disorganized desk to
Yeah.
stay as disorganized as it is.
Poor
But
Katie who had to sit next to your desk.
I know. I try and make sure not to encroach my mess onto her part of the office. Um, so, clean out and sell the items that you may no longer need. And
And
these are
beyond the
big ticket
financial
items.
aspect of it too, sometimes it could just be a mental
Yeah.
perk as
The
well.
mental
You
relief.
feel like you're refreshed, like it's new, like you're organized. And when things around you are more organized, when you feel like things are in order, it tends to rub off on you financially too. It's amazing how tied the psychology and your mood is with when it comes to spending and financials.
Absolutely. Don't tell my kids, but this is going to happen to their toys soon.
Oh, that always
A
makes a
little,
parent happy.
a little decluttering, but it has to be when they're asleep or they're not home, because otherwise it'll become their new favorite toy again before you can get rid of it. Uh, all right, here's another one. Um, Call your service providers. Springtime. You haven't done it in a while. Call them, and you don't have to fire them all, but let them know that maybe you're thinking about firing them all. Um, your internet, obviously, we don't want you to get rid of your internet, because then you won't be able to keep watching our swim lives. And you probably use it for work and school and everything else. But call them and let them know, hey, there's a competitor out there that might be a little cheaper if I switch. Guess what? They're going to find deals for you that weren't there 5 minutes ago, a
Right.
lot of times. And if you haven't done it in a while, or you've never done it at all, it might be a little uncomfortable at first, but then you get the hang of it and you're like, okay, I could do this. And if there is no deals and you have a competitor that can offer you the same or similar service for a lot less money, then maybe it's time to switch, whatever service provider it is you have.
Yeah. And that goes for instance, insurance, auto insurance, yearly. Take a look. There's lots of different kinds out there, and make sure that you just don't go get the cheaper one. Make sure that the coverages are
Yeah.
similar, but check it, see what kind of coverage you have, and with the coverage that you have, there are other organizations that might have cheaper rates. And so those are all things that we can make an extra $100 or so on with and we've mentioned this before on this, but with the pandemic, a lot of us are not driving nearly as much as we were. And you can call your insurance agency and let them know, hey, I'm not driving 12,000 miles anymore. I'm driving 6, and that could save you $90. That could save
Right.
you somewhere in that neighborhood, which is, $90 or $60, whatever it might be, is $60.
Right. And it's money you can use to, pay off debt faster. What can that extra $60 every month as a payment on top of what you were already paying? So that's $60 or whatever amount it is going straight towards the principal that you owe. That's straight savings that you don't have to pay finance charges on next month and the month after that. And you just accelerate your payoff time
Yeah.
frame and get out of debt a lot faster, or get to that savings goal a lot faster. And you start saving, you go $60 on that. I could face $50 on my cable. I save $10 on, my
Netflix.
internet, and I save $10 on a Netflix. And before you know it, you've got $100, you've got $200 a month. And now we're really talking, you can make some progress to paying off some of your debts, or to saving towards, those financial goals, whatever they happen to be.
Set a calendar reminder for yourself, just on a
Yeah.
random, first or 10th of the month, whatever it might be, and just remind yourself, do that,
Yeah.
check with your service providers.
Yeah. And like Chase mentioned, check your policies, check your auto insurance policy, your renters policies, and see if you increase your driving, they would want you to update it so that you could, and you'd end up paying more.
And this
So
goes for things like for instance, if you have things that have changed in your household and you pay renter's insurance, make sure that you contact your renter's insurance company and make sure that you update what's in your house. Make sure you update what's in there that is of value, so they know. And if things get, go wonky or crazy, that those things are going to be covered. And things like jewelry, if you've got a, your wife's wedding ring and you've done something nice for it, make sure you upgrade it, get it appraised, make sure you know what the value of that is, so the insurance agency knows, and it's not 15 years old or so, that information.
Yeah, or old, family jewelry, or old, things that maybe are even gaining value. So just kind of review it all, take the time to sit through them. Start a side hustle. Maybe spring is time to increase your income. And there are virtual side hustles as well. Tutoring, for example. Maybe you're a math whiz, and you can help out some, or you just understand Common Core. There's times when my second grader can use someone who really knows what they're talking about with Common Core, not me. But maybe you can tutor on the side, or maybe in your area things are getting more back to normal, or maybe you go out and you mow some lawns, or it sounds silly, but if it makes money, or you help out people shovel snow, which I hear is a thing. I've never lived in the snow. And maybe make a little extra cash on the side. I know.
And that goes for your kids. That goes for your kids too. If you have children and you want them to kind of get an idea, if they're old enough age, and you want them to get an idea of what work is like and the value of $1 versus some time working, we have friends that started taking out trash cans for their neighbors and charging them $1 a week. And, they're making $20, $30, $40 a month now doing, just taking out trash cans. So it's kind of a different kind of deal. It doesn't really work for you, but it's good work ethic, as well as learning the value of $1 versus an hour worked.
Right. Yeah. And if you live in a community where you can get a lot of people, like your teenager might go out and take out trash on trash day and make himself, mess of $20, $30 or whatever it is, taking out 30 trash cans. That's money that they didn't have. And that does create, now they've got a responsibility of, Tuesday's trash day. I have to go out every Tuesday and do my run and do that. So, and maybe as things get more back to normal, or maybe they are in your area, maybe a part-time job, or on the weekends, or some of these like food delivery services, things like that.
Maybe you have a talent.
Yeah. Maybe you can write, maybe you can build websites, or things like that you can, service out. And lastly, check your credit report. If you haven't done it, obviously we suggest you check your credit report regularly. Right now on annualcreditreport.com, you can check your credit report once a week for free for each of the 3 bureaus. Won't hurt your credit because they're soft inquiries, because you're pulling it yourself. Yep. I don't know if you have to pull it weekly unless you see something on there that's a little alarming, but you have the ability to. Usually It's once a year, but check your report, practice at it. As your kids get old enough, maybe your kids get old enough, they turn 18 and you're thinking they don't have any credit. Well, they can still check the report, because to make sure that in fact they don't have anything on there that doesn't belong to them.
Phil, we got a quick question here along those lines. It's
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting from one of a listener. Is it bad to use 401k to pay off high credit card debt of $5,000? So to answer your question, I would never use a 401k to pay off high credit card debt. There are ways that you can figure out to how to pay that back. But by using a 401k, the penalty that you're going to pay before age 65 is going to be much greater than the $5,000. And not only is it taking away from that money you've already saved in that 401k, you're going to pay a penalty fee on top of that. So I recommend highly that you don't touch your 401ks. And believe me, I've had, my brother did it when he got divorced, and as much as I pleaded with him not to do it, for his state of mind, it worked. But he's also way behind the eight ball now. So it just cost wise, it's not going to add up. So I would not do that just to get rid of it in one foul swoop. I'd come up with a plan to pay that $5,000 back.
And if you withdraw early from your 401k, that could also, it's going to go on there as income, and it could have tax implications.
Taxes on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Along with the penalty fees, you're going to end up paying taxes on it as well.
At a high rate.
Yeah. So that's a good question. Yeah.
Great question though.
Which brings us to questions. And Chase, we had a question here from, I believe someone was watching last week, and he had a question for us. So we wanted to make sure we, touched on it today. How does my credit score go down after making the last payment on my lease car? They obviously closed the account, so I don't understand this matter. Please explain.
All right, Mark. So this is great. And thank you for the question. And this is actually common. A lot of times when we pay off an account for the last time, you'll see a little bit of a dip the next maybe month or so, and not huge dip, but maybe a small dip, because especially with a car, which it doesn't have a credit to debt to ratio balance, you're not making a payment anymore. So that account's not there. And so your credit scores are constantly fluctuating based on what we're doing. And so it will adjust and it will come back. It's not a negative that you paid it off. It's just that it's now recognizing that there's now one less payment there. And it's not like a regular credit card payment.
Right. And it's something where now the account is one less open account, and depending on what else is going on in your credit. But it's not unusual to see small fluctuations in your credit score throughout. Now, if you saw a significant drop, then it might be prudent to check your credit report and make sure that there's nothing else going on that just happened to time it at the same time as you paying off your.
Yeah. And it may not have any effect on the fact that it might have very little effect on the fact that you paid off the last payment. There's so many factors that go into your credit score based on what you've been paying, what you've been paying off, what you've added as you go. For instance, if you had just a car lease and you had no credit cards or no other debts, your credit score is going to go down because you're not using any other available credit for you. So when we talk about diversifying, when you're investing, it's almost like diversifying when you're using credit as well.
But that's a great question, and thanks, Mark, for the email. Any other questions?
Any other ideas? Is there any other spring cleaning stuff we left out?
Yeah, I'd love to hear them. Someone asked, what's your favorite side hustle? I would say for me, I have a soft spot for tutoring. I did it through college, both at a school and then as a side hustle as well. So I think I'd go back to tutoring, teaching kids something. It's just I wouldn't tutor math anymore. I'm a little rusty in that category.
Yeah, there are a lot of different things that are out there. We've got another question that said, I've heard that you should check your credit score 3 times a year. once with each organization and rotate between them. And that is true, except that it's more your credit report. And that was when, and Karen, that was really when you could only pull your credit report once a year for free. Since those are now, at least for the foreseeable future, you can pull them weekly. And that's, so it's as much as you'd want, but that's typically your credit report. You can actually get set up with your credit score, depending on who you bank with. A lot of banks, a lot of credit unions are doing free credit scores now as part of a perk. So you can check with them as much as possible. Now, the difference might be that, for instance, let's just say Bank of America, they only pull your TransUnion credit score, right? It might be that they have a deal with TransUnion, so you don't know what your credit scores are with the other ones, but typically they're going to be relatively close, but they could be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, and if you have multiple creditors, you might be able to get multiple different scores. Just make sure that if you're comparing one to the other, you keep in mind, you might not be comparing apples to apples. If you check in one site this month and then you go check at the other site next month, it might be alarming, or it might be like, whoa, whatever I did was really good. But you want to make sure that with time, you kind of track the same scoring model over and over.
Yeah, absolutely. Any tips for post-pandemic? The one thing that we have seen and that we're starting to see very much, again, is emotional spending. And when I mean emotional, as tough as it was through the pandemic, we're now seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, and people are getting, especially it's normal for summer when we all get like summer vacation fever, but to like
spring break,
look at all these
right
different things we can go do. Make sure that it's within your budget. Don't just go out and go, you know what, I deserve a big vacation, and put a, big dump of money on your credit card because you need to get out. Think about it, plan it a little bit more, maybe take a road trip. But again, emotionally, just try to remind yourself that, you still have a budget regardless of whether the pandemic's over. So it's just a matter, again, emotional.
Yeah, you mentioned road trip. I know gas prices
They're
on the
going,
rise again.
at least in California here, they are soaring.
Yeah, but if you have like a family of 4 and you're taking a trip somewhere where you can get there on a tank of gas there and a tank of gas back, that still might be cheaper than taking a plane on a 45-minute ride for 4. So if you're going to do that, that it is an option. Plus, some of us like the open road. I like just driving. And Chase, not as big a fan as road trips as I am, but to me, that's half the fun.
I'll tell you, through the pandemic, if you've got a talent of some kind and you can make cool things, like my daughter's a decent little artist, and she started making these little paintings, and people around the neighborhood have started to see them because my wife posts them, and now she's getting a laundry list of people doing it. There's so many people that are so talented out there, and with Etsy and all those different kinds of things that, if it brings you joy and you can make $1 or $2 from it too, keep that up. Don't just change things because, we were stuck in our house for a long time. Maybe that's still something that you can do even post-pandemic.
Any
other questions? It was a great question that Mark had. That can flummox people a lot.
Yeah.
I just refinanced our house just to give people an idea, and we paid off some a home equity line of credit that we had when we redid our backyard and our kitchen, and my credit score went down when we paid all that off. And that was within we paid a bunch of accounts off, so a bunch of accounts fell off, but then we got a new loan. And so between all of it, my credit score has gone up and down the last 3 months. So nothing major, just notice that it does go down.
Yeah.
And it can go back, and it'll go back up.
So someone mentioned, can you talk about debt collectors and the stimulus check? And this is something relatively new, that this stimulus check is apparently on this new stimulus check, there's not as many protections for
Yeah, I don't understand this at all.
yeah, there's not as many protections for of that money, but it's certain things, and I'm still kind of looking into it. But apparently, if you have, and I think from what I've read online, it's not just if you have an account in collections, but it's if you have an account in collections that already has a garnishment in place, then they may be able to garnish part of that check as well.
The first
But
two rounds I know were protected.
we're protected.
And this is relatively new news for us as well. So we're looking into this and what all the parameters are.
Yeah.
But we'll, you know what, we'll find out, and in our next swim live, we'll bring it up.
We'll
have
touch
an
on it
answer.
in more detail once we have a chance to review it all. Speaking of, well, we have our podcast that you guys are always welcome to listen to anytime. It's called Talk Wealth to Me. Get it anywhere you get your favorite podcast. Alex, anywhere you get your other favorite podcast. You know, maybe we're one of your favorites. But like us, follow us, leave us a review on Apple, on Spotify, or wherever it is to help other people find us. Share it with your friends and if other podcast listeners that you may know. And then where we will touch on in more detail on our next episode. Join us March 31st for Prepare for Your Grocery Adventure. This one's very near and dear to me this time because this is one of my big financial goals for 2021 is be better on my grocery adventures.
And this is a huge way to save money.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
that'll be
something
a
where
good one. Phil, this is where you're good.
this is my thing right now. And I'm not that I was good at it before, but this is what I've been working on to become better at. Everything, it's quite the process. And I think I've learned a lot through the pandemic by not necessarily by choice, but just like, I don't want to go to the grocery store over and over and over. And then maybe, especially early on, maybe things weren't available when you needed them. So join us. It'll be a fun one.
Yeah.
And thank you everybody for stopping by. As always, if you have a question, if you have a question between now and then, shoot us an email, drop a comment on this Facebook video, and be happy to answer it the best we can, or maybe we'll answer it on the next swim live, or maybe we'll make a whole podcast episode on it.
Absolutely.
So
thank you everybody. Make sure you get in your questions. Those were great.